Hey everyone, I'm Travis Wright, and you're listening to I'm a Fan Of, your show for music, comedy, and more. As always, if you are a musician, a comedian, or just someone that does something interesting, you can reach out to me on Instagram at TravisCanListen. You can find me on Facebook at I'm a Fan Of, or you can reach out to me through the website at I'mAFanOfPod.com. This episode's a big one. It is a big one. Check out the swag. We've got Brave Little Howl. They have released a brand new album called Neola Gold. Got a little swag t-shirt here. Those of you not watching on YouTube, I'm very sorry. You're only hearing audio of me showing my hat and my t-shirt off. Some limited edition merch that they put out at their album release show that I was fortunate enough to get my hands on. I'm so excited. For those of you who've listened to the show, you know I fucking love this band. I absolutely love them. I think they are some of the best performers out there, one of the best bands out there, and I think they are highly underrated and they don't get the recognition they need. So when they finally put their album out, I was like, fuck yeah, we're going to bring you back on the show. We're going to talk about it. I always want to promote these guys as much as possible. And I hope because I promote them so much, you don't think that they're somehow lame. They are cooler than me. I promise. The music is fantastic. The album, front to back, 100% solid. I'm going to do a separate little music review where we can sample songs and all that good stuff. So please check that out. But as for now, let's jump right into the interview. I was able to sit down with Billy, Marc, and Josh from Brave Little Howl. Enjoy.
The I'm a Fan Of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
All right, here we go. Brave Little Howl, cut, paste, edit is what we were talking about. Anyway, Marc, Billy, Josh, what is up?
It's good to be back.
They don't let Josh have a microphone. I'm sorry.
No, we're here to celebrate him going to Ireland tomorrow.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be awesome.
He turns 30.
30?
Yeah.
Man.
31.
31.
He turns 31.
Oh, okay.
That's the
31.
same thing. There was a pandemic. You don't count those birthdays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm still 28.
Well, first of all, I'm always nervous around you guys drinking because it's like I have to get up and go to work in the morning, and I wake up early these days. And anyway, we put a little vodka in this Gatorade bottle. I'm going to try to limit myself to that. Thank you all for bringing some drinks, though, by the way.
Top shelf vodka.
Yeah.
You can't say the brand. It's too exclusive.
Yeah, we better not say it. They're not sponsoring us anyway.
Yeah.
But by the time this episode comes out, the full album will be released. So it's out there right now for everyone to hear. And it's pretty badass. Like,
Time travel is awesome.
Time travel's great, but I mean, y'all saw me kind of gushing over it the other night.
Actually, we were filming a music video last night, so I don't think any of us saw it last night.
Oh, okay.
But Josh reminded me that it came through and played it for us on the way here.
Dude, I mean, it's true. It's like...
I just want to commend you on running and then stopping a run to talk on your phone and then start running again.
Yeah.
Because...
I'm serious about the running right now.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I don't want to talk. I feel like running is, if I talk about running, everybody hates listening about someone talk about running.
I think people hate running more than they hate listening to someone talk about running.
Yeah, they do hate running. The most recent thing, by the way, with running is the first ever person with Down syndrome just finished the Ironman.
How do they know that for sure? Do they test everyone for Down syndrome
before
they let
these
them run?
freaking sirens in Deep Ellum. Anyway,
that's how you know we're alive, is the sirens.
Do you know, though, he ran, after he did a swim and a bike ride, I think it's a 2.5 mile swim, 110 mile bike ride, 112 miles. His marathon time was still almost faster than my first one. I only beat him by, I think, 6 minutes. And then
do you feel good about that?
Do
you want to really brag about that? Is that
it's just a testament to, like, he did 112 miles on a bike and a swim, and he almost destroyed me.
Yeah, either way you try and work that, your brag seems weird.
It's very weird, yeah. I'm faster than him now, though, when I did the second marathon. So, like, I fucking got you.
I didn't take it as a brag at all. I took it as a pumping him up.
That's what I was trying to do, is like, this guy has accomplished so much.
I've been on social media. I know how to handle things. Mm-hmm. It's all about you bragging.
All right, we're going to talk about this album, though. Stop deflecting. But y'all sent me, at this point, even though it's released, I only have like a Google Drive. What's the title of the album?
Neola Gold.
Neola Gold. What is that?
It's a street that we've been. Gold's not the street, but it's called Neola.
Oh, okay.
We wrote a lot of the songs there. We've been rehearsing there for probably the last 2 years.
Is that out in Greenville?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of ours. Right about the time we were losing our other practice space, we had hung out with them like the day before or something. It was a football game or something, and Josh's like, he has a pool hall room where people play cards and all sorts of stuff. I'll ask him, he might let us. And he was like, dude, please. And so, he hangs out with us whenever we rehearse, and it's fun.
Were y'all tracking stuff there, or was it just rehearsal?
No, just rehearsing.
Where did y'all actually record it all at?
Because
I remember y'all were kind of doing some recording yourselves for a while, and then kind of going to studios here and there.
Yeah, the problem with recording ourselves, at least like 3 years ago, is we had too many cooks and not enough, like that. We sort of, we're getting better at this, but it's good for us to have a mediator that can say, because when one of us or two of us, and then there's two of us on the other side, okay, how are we going to break the tie? But if we're in a studio and there's an engineer or a producer or somebody and they say, no, actually, I think they're right, that is going to be weird later, then the band sort of flows with that energy. But when it's not that, we butt heads sometimes. So we did do some recordings during COVID, but before COVID, we had recorded 3 songs with John Pedigo at Audio Dallas. And then we recorded the rest of them, most of the rest, at Cloudland Studio in Fort Worth with Joe Tacky.
I can never remember if it's Tack or Tacky or Taki.
And both places were great.
Pretty sure it's just Tack.
Both those engineers were great. I mean, they both had good ideas and were easy to work with, and we were happy with all the stuff we got from them.
Yeah. You were talking about everybody kind of getting a say, or like just throwing in their 2 cents. And you guys are always nice enough, like when you're working on something and you feel like it's a little shareable, like you'll throw me a track every now and then and be like, what do you think? And even with that, it's like I'm almost scared to give opinions, because I know there's already, 6 of you in the band throwing opinions around, and it makes me nervous to even go like, oh, I like this, I don't know about this, and I don't even have anything invested in it. Like I didn't write any of it.
No, we actually just show those to you, not for your opinion, but just so in case we all die.
Oh, it's there.
Has it, yeah. We don't care what you say.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy to watch you guys.
That's not true.
It is crazy to watch the evolution of some of those songs, though, because I was fortunate enough to hear some of those songs like a couple years ago, and then now they've kind of transformed into new things, and it's like being along for that ride has been really fun. And then my wife, I was showing her the songs today, and she was talking about the show we just went to that you guys played with Brandon Pattier at Sundown at Granada. And she even mentioned, she's like, they were always good, but it feels like you guys are finally kind of really meshing after all these shows y'all been playing for the last 2 or 3 years in this current lineup, right? And does it feel that way to y'all now that you're... it's all been weird with COVID, but you guys have been playing with your current lineup for about 3 years now, right?
Yeah, I think this is as long as we've had a bass player for.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's really the only thing that's been switching around a lot is the bass player, right?
Yeah. I mean, Billy likes to sing, but he never really wants to, so we have to always convince him to sing a song. So that's always been kind of dicey in the lineup.
Yeah.
That's why we have 3 guys backing him up.
We definitely rehearse less than we used to.
Yeah.
Because we're more dialed in. But it shows also when we don't. Whenever y'all don't know, but we know. We're like, oh, why did you do that? Like, I don't know. I just freaked out in the moment. But I mean, before we even started playing shows, we rehearsed for quite a while.
Yeah.
And we needed to, just to really, when we first started playing our first few shows, just that it would be good already. That's what we were hoping for anyway.
Yeah, I remember talking to y'all about the first album, and it's like you kind of, like you felt like you had your sound, but it still felt like you guys had more that you wanted to put in it. Do you still feel that way now? Like now, I feel like with the new tracks, you guys are finally figuring out how you're meshing like all the different styles that y'all each like, and you kind of know how to work together more.
I think so.
I was going to let you answer that. I was going to jump in and say how you're wrong.
I think we work faster. I think like somebody brings an idea, we'll still do our headbutting, but we come to a place quicker, I think, where we realize what's going to work, what's not going to work. Sometimes we'll take 2 paths for a little while, but mostly it seems like we figured out pretty quickly this is the right way to go with this particular one. Sometimes, like there's one song that we recorded called Pictures and Carpets that we just, even though we recorded it, it wasn't for the overall band. Everybody wasn't happy with it. It was the consensus was let's hold that one back for now. We might record it again, take a different approach to it, or maybe after time we'll change our minds about it.
I think that's the hardest part about this recording process and what's going to happen in the future as we record more, hopefully, is that we have everyone's more experienced with the process of writing with 6 guys in a band. Everyone's more experienced with recording in a studio in this configuration. So as we get to a point, what conceptually seems like a good idea starts to become more and more hauntingly not what you initially heard or not what you initially wanted. And then you, like an example Bill gave, to me, the thing that really gave me the gravitas to be like, we should hold off, is that the original song that he wrote is beautiful. It's incredible. And I felt like the song wasn't as strong as just him singing it by himself. And that's where, as we move forward, I think we now have the confidence that we don't have to decorate a song with 6 people doing something as much as if the song's really good, man, let's let the song. Not that Josh, sitting over there without a microphone, is a virtuoso. Like, he could play in any band and be a professional musician in a heartbeat. He'd have to leave his family and all that stuff, but he could do it. She won't listen to the
Which we've talked about. You have plans to leave the family, right? Like,
That's when he gets back from Ireland.
that's why you guys came on the show today.
Yeah.
You're like, he's going on vacation, then he's ditching the family.
Yeah. Now, but there is an element to, like, nobody in the band except for Josh is good enough at what they do. In fact, our bass player is phenomenal singer-songwriter, but he's stuck on bass. To go like, okay, I'm going to take this song and I'm going to be the hero of the song. So we always have to listen to the song as a whole and say, is this song presented in a way that it has space, that it has movement, that it has something pushing it through, and that you, even after the first listen, you go back and listen again and say, like, yeah, this is what I wanted to hear. I wanted to learn more. I wanted, like, it draws you in and in and in. And I think that's the cool thing about this process, is that every time we, like, the first album I took something away, second album I've taken something away. In my head, I'm already preparing for the third album. I think everyone in the band's the same way with what they want to contribute, how they view it, what they hear the future being, and, like, even who we want to work with, how we want to work it out. That sort of thing.
It shows. I mean, that's just talking about people not wanting to always be in the spotlight in the band. I mean, it's so difficult, right? Because it's easy to go like, this is the perfect part, and once I show these guys, they're all going to fall in love with it. But it definitely shows, especially there's a ton of spots on the new record that just breathe so well. And yeah, it's really good. I mean, especially like, I'm spoiled. You guys played that Big Thicket show, so I heard a lot of these songs in a recorded form long before this. But little things like one of my favorite songs, Ballad, but it's actually the ballad of Gregory Lee, right? Yeah. Like, I remembered you guys talking about some of the instrumental stuff you were going to do on that, but I forgot. And then when I heard that kind of whiny, I think it's slide guitar, right? Or pedal steel guitar, I mean. Yeah, and it's real subtle. It's not a lot, and it would be so easy to take a pedal steel in there and just go nuts, and just be like, put some sweet ass pedal steel, like, because that's an instrument. When somebody's good at it, you don't hear it a lot. You could be flashy really quick, and then it serves the song poorly. So that's just one example. I'm gonna have to look at the tracks now. Oh no, I remember. Go ahead.
Didn't we actually ask them to dial it back a little?
Did you?
There was a little more in there.
I mean, if I knew how to play pedal steel, I would fucking show off all the time, because so few people play it well that I'd be like, you brought me in here to do my thing. Let me show you.
That pedal steel actually came in because we were recording it, and Joe at Cloudland, after messing with it for a while, he said, I hear a pedal steel in there.
Oh, that's
and
so cool.
I'm gonna have somebody come do something. We weren't even there. He's like, if y'all hate it, I'll just pay him myself. I'll just eat it.
Oh, that's cool.
And when we heard it at first, we were kind of like, I don't know, but it grew on me quick, and I like it now.
But that's always the initial thing, right? Especially if it wasn't, not saying any of y'all in particular, but just in general, like if it wasn't your idea, it's really hard to digest, right? Because you've already got this big vision for how this is going to go, and then y'all have already worked it out as a band, like, this is it, and then for someone else to be like, I know what'll make it better. That's always hard to swallow.
Yeah, I thought it was, like what I was surprised with is that when I had talked to Joe a little bit about it before, he He actually paid the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, I don't know that needs a lead line. It just needs something atmospheric. And when it came back, it was total like just in the background, adding a little bit here and there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was perfect to the idea that I think complemented the song. And you're right. Like if it came in singing, it would. There's too much already happening. It's like a 25-minute song. I mean, who wants to hear that?
Well, and what I love about it too, I was thinking about it today, is I've heard y'all perform that song live a couple times, full band electric, right? Maybe twice. And you don't miss it live. Like you don't notice it's missing, but on the album, you're happy it's there. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're at a show where somebody just happens to play pedal steel and knows parts, it's like, well, that'll be cool, but you don't need it. It's not like we can't play it live. We're missing the pedal steel.
That's actually something we talk about a lot in the band is recorded versus live. And I think it's split maybe in the band, or maybe I'm the only one who honestly thinks it's really cool to have a recorded version and then a live version.
Yeah.
And I think that the pushback is you don't want, like, I don't know who said it, but the first album,
Clay, I think.
Yeah, he said that someone.
But somebody said our album was overproduced. Our lives aren't movies.
Yeah.
And he was like, "What? That's wrong. We play all those parts live. You know, we didn't just add layer after layer after layer after layer that we can't play."
I think I didn't have similar thoughts of overproduced, but I know what that person is saying. I think what it is you're not
production quality.
I think one, you're not used to people coming out of the gate as like a more local band with good production quality, right? And then also, how many bands in the area are playing as many parts as y'all are well, and then as many harmonies as y'all are doing also. So I think that's a foreign. Most people think like, oh, they threw a bunch of backup vocals in the studio.
Right.
They're not. I think then when they come see you live, they're like, oh, yeah. So I think that's what the overproduced thing comes from. Is they're probably thinking, oh, I won't hear that at the show. You know, in reality, you know, you do.
Well, so there was some sensitivity toward that recording new songs, like not with all of us, but some. Like, well, I don't want that to come up. You know, I'm like, but that was one person's comment, and doesn't. I mean,
but
you know,
isn't
we respect
that's
their
always
opinion,
the person.
but, you know,
but that's always the comment that sticks with you, right? You can hear 200 like
Right,
it
right.
sounds amazing, and you'll get one. I didn't like this thing, and that's the
Right.
only thing you'll remember. You won't remember the people who loved it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talk about button heads too, but I mean, really, that's the minority that happens. You know, mostly we work really well together and have a great time together. You know, I just
We take good.
don't
photos.
hide that part. You know, we do butt heads, but
Yeah.
it's because we care about it.
Yeah.
You know, we all really want it to be.
That's what
to
does
inspire, you
suck,
know?
is
Yeah.
like we do care a lot, and it's hard to go into a group project and care that much and then feel like the project's falling apart because no one else cares as much as you do.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to convince people, no, I care more, and this is why I'm right. And it's subjective, and it's you need a scale that you can put your care on, and everyone gets, you know.
Wouldn't that be great if you had a little like a meter, the care meter in
my
the practice?
care is greater than yours, therefore we're going with my care.
I was gonna say I think we've kind of developed interpersonally, like in our relationships, as much as we have musically. Like we've gotten better at listening to each other musically, but I think we've gotten better at listening to each other when we argue and when we disagree. Like I think we've really developed as human beings and like interacting together. So that's been cool for me to see. I feel like
Speak for yourself, Josh.
we've become more mature in the way we deal with disagreement, I think.
Do you think doing those? First of all, I'm going to go ahead and go on record and say like Sundown at Granada is just like y'all's home base venue. I think. Do y'all think doing the residencies there helped kind of that?
I think it helped with performance and being willing to like live by the seat of our pants a little bit. We tried a lot of songs out there without a lot of practice, or with maybe, you know, like minimum amount of practice you would ever try to do a song live.
Because it was on Tuesday, and we usually rehearse on Tuesday. So
Yeah.
we were like, well, we're going to miss a rehersal, though. We're like,
Yeah, it's
well,
on
we'll just-
Tuesday
Yeah.
night, right?
Yeah. So we'll just, you know,
I hate that now.
if there's stuff that we want to work on, we can just do it there.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
I love knowing that I live in that neighborhood and I can hear y'all play that song, Wilco and the Saints, at the venue that you wrote the song about. That is like when we were there the other night and y'all were playing that. That was, especially since like that's the first time me and my wife had gotten kind of tanked in a while, and it's like we're just fine. You know, we have the stress of like a kid all the time now, so we finally were just like cutting loose. And it was like, the song's about this thing right here that we're in it right now. Like, I don't. It's a fun moment because you think about all these other songs that have written about spots and places. You're never really around those areas. You're never really involved in it. And it's like, no, we were watching some of these shows that helped inspire this writing, and it's just kind of fun to know you're kind of a part of that ethos, I guess. Yeah.
I have that same feeling about Nashville.
Oh yeah.
When we were when we were at our little EP recording thing, and Marc was like the very beginnings of that song, and broken bones and busted lips and bruised egos. That line just like stuck with me forever. It forever endeared me to the band because I just think it's a you know, it's all about the physical, right? Broken bones, busted lips, but really it's about everyone's bruised egos.
Yeah.
It's all about how we're like taking a stab at each other's psyche and ego. It's a great line.
I think the second verse has a line about I've got some good friends, I've got some enemies. I've had at least one fight with all of them. That was super autobiographical at that moment. And it was a very odd.
We were
like
probably fighting about Boddingtons and the different beers that we bought at that. The cream ale, and then we had the Stiegel Rattler. That was the morning drink.
Because I think even when I went to write, like I sat down in a room by myself to be by myself, and there was a guitar. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play guitar for a second. And as chords came out, I was like, I dig it. And then as I'm figuring it out, Clay comes in there and starts staring at me. I'm like, dude, I came in here for a moment. And then he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this. And he's like, that's cool. It's like, all right. So it's a redemptive quality about, you know.
Yeah, I've only had a few of those moments where you're playing an instrument and then the person that you're jamming with or something. It's like you just get that atmosphere in the room. Things just start clicking. And then all of a sudden you're like, we just randomly started doing something that's kind of fucking fun. And then somebody's girlfriend or something will be outside the door and they'll be like, what was that? That was good. I like that. And you're like, I think we have something. You know?
There's a song on the new album called Wicker Park. I kind of had it, I guess, sort of set up form-wise for us. I don't remember. Anyway, I brought it in. We started messing with it, and with us. We're messing with it.
Y'all were messing with each other
I'm not really
before
drunk.
you played
I
a
just
song.
hear myself in my headphones, and it sounds weird. Yeah, that should do that. There we go. That's way better. Thank you, Bill. My first time with headphones, guys. But no, so I bring the song in. We just kind of jam. Like we had free time that practice, and everybody's there and in. We start messing with it, and we play through it. And it felt like the best I've ever felt that song was like maybe the third time we played all the way through it. And a guy whose place we practice at, his name's Keith, and he's always in the room, kind of tinkering on his phone or meandering or whatever. And he goes, I really like that one. The only time I've ever heard him say anything about a song. And I think it's because like in that moment, like we killed it. Like everyone was in step and it was sort of improv in this weird moment. And like since then, it's an old adage, but we've been trying to recapture that every recording, every performance is getting back to like that one time, the third time we played it, it worked. And it's, I think that is the crazy thing about music is that once it leaves your head and it starts to come out through your fingers or your voice, you're always chasing what it was in your head. And then when you throw other people in and it becomes live, now you have this animal that you're always trying to reconjure and have it sprint back to life. And there are live shows where, I mean, you always sell out. You always do everything you can to be as there, present, and moving. And you're like, man, I just totally felt. And then you have live shows. Like we played Dan Silverleaf in July, I think. And I was terrified before the show. I mean, I was like, this show is going to fail. It's going to be bad. It's Wish Kit, which is an amazing band off Denton, if you haven't heard. Cutthroat Finches. And
What made you nervous about that show, though?
Wish Kit is a younger band, and they really rock. And then Cutthroat Finches gave me a heads up. Hey, we're not going to be there to sound check or anything. We're just have to throw and go. And they have almost as many members as we have, if not the same amount.
Hmm.
And they're pros. They can do whatever. And so I was like, man, they're not going to sound check. Wish Kit is going to be really just like rock. And like, I don't know if Cutthroat can follow that. And then I'm like watching nobody coming in the door as the doors open. I'm like, this is going to be a terrible night.
All of this to me, though, sounds like every single Denton, Texas show.
Oh, it was
like this sounds like just normal. This is the way it's going to go.
Like honestly, that's kind of the way Denton treats us a little bit, depending on the venue.
But it ended up being awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like as
It
the
was
night
completely full.
Yeah, as the night pulls on, like they had left chairs and tables in there, and then where the chairs and tables are, there's just a line of people touching the stage in between chairs and tables, and everyone's singing along and singing back to us, and that's always a weird thing to do. Is hear, and like something I've realized lately, like in the past maybe 2022, I've been more aware of it. But we don't have friends who come to shows. It's just people who have heard the band, and we know because they come to shows. But it's not like people we knew before we were the band or people we knew in year one of the band. It's like the slow progression of people who actually seem to like the music and are there for the music and not for who we are as people. And that's a weird...
Yeah, you're not begging them like, hey, we got a show.
I don't know last time I invited a friend to a show because honestly I'm embarrassed now.
But in the beginning, like our friends and family were super great. I mean, they came to a bunch of shows and really helped us. And
but
we
your
don't
friends,
expect them to. I mean, they've already been to 80 shows.
Well, I was going to say the friends of the band that go to shows, they're going because they still like the shows. They still like the band. It's not like you guys are begging them to come out.
Sure.
Which is a big difference.
At this point, we just need them to share the post
and
invite other people who haven't been to
Instagram
shows.
just changed
That's
their
all we
algorithm.
need.
You're like,
Killing us.
we're working with an algorithm here. Everything's gone to video. We don't know what to do. Like,
No, that algorithm change that happened like 3 weeks ago has been the worst.
it's just, I just go with the flow. I don't look at the engagement that much anymore. I just put it out there knowing like I've kind of just gone more like laissez-faire with it. Like people will find it when they're ready to find it. And, the more you try to force it, it never seems to work anyway, And it's like, I'm going to do what I can do. It goes out in the universe and it's received or it's not. You can't just cram it out there 24/7.
So all I can do is cram it out there.
I'm just cramming it out.
Yeah, that was something from your reel that you did a couple days ago when you were talking about why don't more people know about us and why isn't this or that. And, and honestly, like, I mean, I think we would like it just because we would like to play, bigger venues or with bands that we know and love and, but really we want more people to hear it because we believe in what we're doing. We think it's important. We think it's inspiring. We want them to hear it because the way it affected us and other people who hear it say how it affects them. I mean, we're all kind of, if somebody came to us right now and said, okay, we're going to take you to Europe for 5 weeks. We'll pay you $500 a show to be our backup or $2,000 a show to be our backup. We probably
$5,000
but we probably couldn't do it.
Right. Yeah.
So, it's like you want it, but if it happened, it's hard to do.
I'd do it by myself.
Well, I think my frustration with y'all's reach as a fan, as someone who just enjoys your music, is that every time we've shared it with someone like my wife and I or somebody who listens to the show, like even the comics that I know that listen to the show and have heard about the band, they're like, oh, they're great. It's like I know comics that are wearing y'all's T-shirts around.
We saw
and
that.
And so I haven't showed it to people where they're like, I don't know, that shit kind of fucking sucks. Like, that doesn't really come up. And so to me, it's like, well, it's just kind of, I always get bummed out a little bit about the music industry wondering, what is the catalyst that people can use these days? A genuine catalyst where I don't even think it's money, though. I think you can throw money at it as much as you want, and sometimes it just doesn't take. Like, again, it goes back to like sometimes people just, they're ready to hear it or they're not.
But if you throw money at a good product, will it take?
I mean, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But I do
dude,
wonder about that because it's like, even if let's say you got on a 2-year tour, right? It's like, is that the thing that's going to grow it? You hope it will, but you just never know.
Right.
And then to say like, I'm going to give up the security that, like you said, you have family obligations, you have things at home. You can't just say, I'm not going to have a mortgage for the next 2 years.
He's a
So-
farmer now, man. He has a whole side hustle on top of being in a band.
But
Very small side hustle.
you know,
Hey, it's more side hustle than I got.
my dream is definitely to see you guys. I think what I would want is that you're having enough success with your performing and touring that you're not only paying your bills, but you're funding your next records. You know,
Right.
you're funding your merch. You're funding the things that you want to do without having to go.
I just feel okay
We
to
still
fund
need the
my
day
rent.
job, huh?
We could just fund my rent. That'd be fine.
You know.
No, but you know, the band has grown for sure,
It's-
even in money wise too. Like the last album we paid for just with band funds.
Mhm.
In the past, we've always pitched in money. You
Mhm.
know, everybody pitched in money. Maybe a little we pitched in, but you know,
Yeah.
95% was just from savings that we have from playing shows.
No.
And while paying off the other record.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
had off one record
yeah.
while paying for another record.
Well, but as far as if we were to go like on a national tour for 2 years, I think yes, we would blow up because
That's
from
how-
our social media stuff, anytime we play, our plays, our follows, our everything go way up, and then if we don't play for a while, then it goes down.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's energy in our show. There's energy when we interact with people.
Mhm.
So I think it would work, but it just depends.
I mean, it's a thing that in preparation for releasing this album, I tried to study really hard. And I think Bill and everybody in the band kind of took an interest in it. But the model that everyone talks about now is doing an independent artist,
Mhm.
and you become your own, you know, A&R. You become your own label. You do all those things for yourself because music doesn't make money anymore.
Mhm.
Streams and basically making money live shows.
Mhm.
But the hard thing is like you have to have a really good hook, and being 6 old white guys, there's not really a lot of hooks to us.
Y'all always get hung up on age, by the way.
No, well, that's my joke.
Y'all,
That's my joke.
I know.
That's my
You
joke.
always get hung. Like even when you're talking about the
Dude.
Denton show, you're like, you know, they were a young band, and it's
Oh no, well, they're not even that young. They're like in their 20s. I don't
Yeah.
know what's young anymore.
yeah.
It's just creepy when I talk about anything under
Anything
30.
younger than me, I think it's like they're just little kids.
Yeah. No, that's yeah. But yeah, there's this total thing of, and when we went to, I had a friend who works in the music industry, and he was hitting up different labels and different stuff, just talking to him and like picking their brain, not kind of low grade, like pushing us, but also at the same time, like, hey, what's your feedback? And like, they need a story, they need a hook, they need to be, you know, we won't consider looking at them till they reach this number of streams, this number of followers. And I totally understand that. I mean, it's a big money investment on their end,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, I'm old man yelling at the clouds. There I go with the age stuff again. But you know, there's a certain level of I miss when you would take a chance because a band was good,
Yeah.
and you weren't worried about the metrics that like help develop those metrics if you care so much about them.
Yeah,
but
I get it, and like
old
I-
man yelling at clouds.
I know, like even artists that I bring on here. There's been artists that come on here that have labels, and you know, I'll try to talk to them off mic because I don't want to be insulting in any way. But I do often ask the question of like, what do you get from a label these days? Because there's only a couple of independent labels that I see that work with smaller acts that like give a shit. I think now Third Man Records is really blown up, but I do think that they will find acts that aren't like, oh, this is marketable. You know, they'll just say like, I dig this shit.
Well, it's
And
marketable because it's Jack White.
Well,
He's his own marketing.
But I know
machine.
that because I'll see a lot of their bands where I'm like, I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Like that is not some cookie cutter thing. That's not
That's
for
just
me.
because you're old, Travis.
Right. So I know that like they love that music,
Right.
and they're standing behind it, and that's what you need on a record label. The other record label I think that does a great job is have y'all heard of Coal Mine Records that does a lot of the soul stuff? I love what they do because it's like I think they're probably just losing money all the time. They put
Yeah.
out so much vinyl,
But
it's all good.
But
it's
I think there's
really good.
There's a market for it, and I think that they have like, who was it right before they blew up? They're in Brooklyn, but they also did a bunch of like old like soul music, and they found like a channel to pull like 70s Nigerian and Cameroon and Kenyan and like South African artists. They pulled all their stuff from the 70s over, put it on streaming and vinyl, and then they had like the Budos band, and I don't know if they're still existing. I I used to be on their email list.
I think those labels are going to come back though, because I think it's showing, right? Like I've gotten to the point now where if I see the Coal Mine label, I'll go, well, I'm going to give it a listen. I'm going to give it a chance, right?
Right.
And that's what music lovers want. It's like, I don't need you to tell me this is amazing. I just need to know that you thought it was amazing, and I'll give it a chance. And I get why bigger labels, you know, they're probably, you know, legit. You know, they're working quarter to quarter. I've got a fiscal year. I've got to blah, blah, blah. I've got to pay these salaries. And it does suck. You kind of need that eccentric person to be like, fuck it, we might lose money on this, but I love it, you know? Well, and that's a hard ask, but also you're in the music industry. That should be what you're doing.
But they've got managers above them that are pushing them to meet sales quotas.
We need to fire those fucking
But I think too, like the whole music industry as a whole, like no one listens to radio anymore. Everybody listens to Spotify in their car or...
Yeah, but you know why no one listens to radio anymore, in my opinion, is because they allowed radio to start sucking. Fair. Right? I think Spotify, Pandora, any of those things, I think they all came out of like, there's too many commercials and there's too much of the homogenous music on this station.
Yeah.
I don't think it was necessarily all because of technology. I think technology definitely boosted that. But I think the only reason people created those apps is because people were like, man, the radio fucking sucks. It's just I'm hearing the same 30 songs every single day. And that comes down to who are the big players that bought up all the radio stations? Clear Channel, Viacom, probably.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know the specifics on that, but what did they do? They started saying, you know, they were kind of like the first algorithms of music, right? They were like, okay, we can watch the stats. We get this many listens on these songs. We can sell this much ad space. And instead of keeping it about music, you turned it into too much of a business. You bought up all the local stations that had the independent DJs. You homogenized it, right? And really, you need like the goofy guy. You know, you need the guy in this town who loves this shit, and the guy in this town who spins this because he loves that. And then kind of those local centers, you know, rather than just the machine. I mean, now you can just go in there and just hit a button. It's going to play all the pre-selected shit, and it sucks, you know.
Right. And I think that's the business. I mean, that people ultimately want money. I think that's just a human trait.
Yeah.
And so I think, like everyone said, well, here's the best way to make money. Here's a streamlined model. And it worked for a while.
It works in a short term.
Yeah, but artists got savvy and like, hey, I'm not making any money. I want to do myself. And then if you're established, you can totally do that. But it's a weird gamble. Like,
well, and they cut their own legs out, right? Because the reason they're all not making money now is because there aren't any album sales.
Right.
And the reason people don't care about albums as much anymore is because you made them care about singles.
Don't get Billy started on singles.
You know, and so you took out your own way of making money. Just like the movie industry is doing the same thing right now, right? Like, since they can't sell DVDs, they're having a really hard time making money. And it's like, you guys are you fucked your own system.
Right.
You know? Because how many cult classic movies failed in a theater, but then later on had all these great DVD sales?
Right.
Right? And music's the same way. It's like, you might release something and it's like, it only sold like 2,000 albums.
That'd be awesome.
But then
that's like that. That's like that.
But
Can
then
we do that? Can we do that?
But then 3 or 4 years later, you're like, holy shit, man, we're getting like a tick on this album. Like some DJ or some reviewer, somebody picked it up.
But what's that artist from Stranger Things that just blew up? That
Kate Bush.
Yeah, like
running up that hill.
She's way. At the time, it wasn't.
No,
like I'd never heard of it before.
No, I remember it. Oh, I don't remember it. I found Kate Bush in the early 2000s because I was in a deep dive into like post shoegaze English music and like Muse and not Muse, Throwing Muses and Kate Bush kept popping up. And I heard the song, I was like, that's a song, I guess. And then I was out on Stranger Things after season 1. Corey, our drummer, was like, dude, do you know about Kate Bush? I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, this song is killer. And he sends it to me. I'm like,
but, you know, it's what, 20 years old or something? Right?
No, it's like 20, 30.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so it's exactly what you said.
It's before Josh was born.
Oh, about how a song from then getting bigger now.
You never know what'll happen. You know?
Well, I mean, to have like the largest examples, it's like, think how many of these, let's go with one of the biggest examples, right? It's like, how many different generations eventually found like Metallica and bought a Metallica record, right?
One.
Yeah. So it just shows it's like
negatory.
If you do your own thing, I mean, again, with another mega like example, I think that's why people like even Billie Eilish resonates so well is it's very different than what they're giving you. Right. And now, granted, she ended up getting a bigger machine behind her, but it didn't start that way.
Right.
You know?
No, and I think that's the thing. Like, it sounds really dumb. So much of music's just luck and who hears it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they, well, okay, not so much of it. That's a tiny fraction. I'll say that. There's so much extra work you have to do, and nonsense and posts that 8 people like is also a huge part of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like just getting one person who goes, this is really awesome and I have power,
Mm-hmm.
that can thrust you. And you know, you see a microcosm of that here in Dallas through different like record labels and what they're able to achieve for artists, just because they have an ear of someone, or they have this connection that no one else has. And I think that that's a unique thing that I don't know if that happens in like real estate or
Mm-hmm.
in being
No,
a
it
police
definitely
officer.
does. Well, I don't know about police officer, but
That's why I
but-
said police officer, so you couldn't say what
but
you're
yeah,
about to say.
like the band thing, you're an entrepreneur. You've got to do all the parts, and I don't want to do those parts. Like we're at shows and they go, "Hey, go to the merch table." I'm like, "Y'all go over there." Like, "Well, but you're a singer. They want to see you. They want to talk to you." And I'm like, "Man, I want to write songs. I didn't know
Yeah.
I was going to be a T-shirt salesman." You know? Come on. But a lot of times we double or triple what we made at the show based on what we sell.
Yeah.
You know, which is great. I'm
Yeah.
glad they want the stuff. You know, but what we want to do is write and play our music.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just like necessary evils that are attached
The
to
comics I bring on here, it's the same story, right? Like they want to write jokes, and it's the same way. It's like, except comedy pays much worse than music does in terms of venues. But then you guys split it up between 6 people, so it might even out. But they're the same way. It's like they've got to get T-shirts or koozies or something. Otherwise, it's like we made $50 and that's it, you know, and maybe $50. Some of it's like $15, $20, and you know, the like on the surface, you're like, well, you got up there and did 15 minutes worth of work. You did 30 minutes worth of work.
And I had a $40 bar tab.
Yeah, right. But the reality is, it's like, well, how many hours went into making a comedy set? How many hours went into making this music and the instruments and all this? But what comedy's having right now is the same thing music, I feel like, is kind of lagging behind them just a little bit, just because music is, you know, it's usually groups of people and it's a little more difficult. But they're doing the same thing. They're all becoming independent. They're like, you know, fuck this whole system. Like, we can record our stuff, we can put it out on YouTube, we can do all this ourselves and monetize it ourselves. But it means you've got to become everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're your marketing, you're everything, and it sucks. Because it would be great if that person could just sit there and write jokes all day, you know?
Well, I mean, you'll make more, you know, if you do it yourself, you'll keep more of the profits for sure, right? I mean, you know, if you have somebody who, like, we don't have a booking person. We just, I mean, we would love to have one that was like
If you're listening,
That's a really good one.
getting us
Like, not some
great shows,
shitty one, okay?
You know, getting us great shows.
you know what you're doing.
But you know, right now that's 10 or 15% that we're not giving away. We're keeping it, you know, and we do our own social media stuff usually. So that's, you know, 1 to 200, you know, posters or whatever per pop, you know.
Yeah. I think the only thing bands would benefit from now would be a solid booking agent, right? Because that's the one kind of nebulous thing that's hard to figure out is you don't know who to contact. You don't know who to reach out to. There's no like, oh, here's the spreadsheet on people you can check out. You know, like Tim works in Seattle, he'll hook you up. You know?
Yeah, it's like what Marc was saying about an inn. You know, they've booked, you know, 58 bands at a venue in Houston, and they call and say, "Hey, I've got another band coming through," and they're like, "Great, send them over." You know, they've already got a relationship. They don't even listen. They don't care. They trust you. You know.
But I think it's also the type of venue. So you have these booking agents who work with specific types of venues and types of people, and it's like if you talk about 50 Dan Silverleaf that are all throughout the country, like you have to sell tickets there. Like people have to come to see you at that show. So if we show up in Memphis, Tennessee,
No one's going to be there.
Yeah,
there's
but
going to be 4 people there.
deal,
Yeah.
But it's also, in my opinion, it should also be more mutual, right? Like, on one hand, you guys should be doing everything you can do when you have a show booked to sell tickets, right? Everything you can possibly do. But on the other hand, a venue should be like, we have an audience here who needs to know that we always bring in not only new music, but good music, right? You're not just going to see the same rotation of bands coming through this venue all the time. We're going to put a band you've never heard of before with a band that you know is good, and it's going to be worth your time coming out on a Friday, because we all know it's expensive to park and get a bar tab and babysit or whatever. But there should be a guy who's like, in Memphis or wherever we were just talking about, where it's like, what's going on in the Dallas scene, or what's going on in the Fort Worth scene, or what's going on in Austin? Maybe we can get a couple of those guys out here, just out of, like you said, like the love of music, the pride of the work. And it's like, yeah, it's fucking harder, but also, don't you want to be that booker where it's like, my venue's got all the good shit all the time? Mm-hmm. And like, how psyched would people be if it's like, oh, you're working with so-and-so from that venue? Oh, yeah, he booked us on a show. It was incredible. We'll go back there anytime. And I think that's what you're missing is a lot of those players where it's like, man, it's just going to take extra time to just find bands and put them on shows.
Yeah.
I think Three Links does a good job of that. I think they get a lot of like mid-level touring bands in that you don't hear a lot about. Like, they're big, but they're not a name that you know. And it's hit or miss, right? Like, I'll look at it and go, it's not really my shit, but I'm happy that they're getting this in here. Mm-hmm. That it's a new cycle of music all the time. Double Wide does a good job too. They do a good job of that. But I think we're spoiled in DFW where we have so many venues that we have a couple good bookers. So then when you go out to these other markets, it's like, there might just be one venue, and that booker may not give a shit. He might just be there for the paycheck and the cocaine,
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's true. We actually recently got reached out to by a guy from Oklahoma City who was driving through Dallas and heard us on KXT and reached out like, hey, would you?
Dude, Amy Miller, by the way, she is a fantastic example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody who will do the local show stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
well, now it's
Nilifer
Asada.
Yeah.
oh, they
yeah.
changed people now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Amy's
Okay.
still part of it. She does like mornings, I think, during the week.
Cool. But she kicked off a lot of that Thursday local stuff, right?
Yeah, that was her show.
Yeah.
But
Who's the new person, by the way?
Nilifer Asada.
Ursala.
Asala. Thank you.
Okay,
Man,
I gotta
I'm
check
bad
that
at
out.
talking.
But yeah. So we've been sending, we've been putting out a few singles in preparation for Neola Gold coming out, and usually we'll send it to her like a week or two ahead and say, it's coming out. If you like it, would be great if you'd play it. Mm-hmm. And so far she's played all of them, so we've been super thankful.
I think that's what you need, right? You need that one person who's like, fuck yeah, new music, let's do it.
And she's been a big supporter of the Wee Beasties who you had on.
And you guys and the Wee Beasties are like, y'all are my favorite examples of I think y'all fully commit to making your albums. You know what I mean? Like, you say, like, here's what I want to put on an album. Let's do it right, and then let's put it behind us, and that's done, rather than just kind of messing around with stuff. And I think, especially them being in kind of like a punk, ska, hardcore thing, most of those bands do not take that type of discipline to their writing.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, Mark, because that no, not that. The Dan Silverleaf, the Wee Beastie guy, was there. What's his name?
Richard Haskins?
Yeah, he was there. And I said, dude, I just heard Wee Beasties on the local show yesterday, and he goes, I heard y'all on there too. So it's funny.
Dude, that dude's great, man. He makes you excited about music, and then he also makes you realize like music is a place for misfits. You know what I mean? Like, if people like him don't have outlets like music, you have problems. And he proved that. Like, he went out and fucking robbed. I don't know if y'all listened to the episode on here, but he robbed I mean, it was a lame robbery. He didn't like go in with a gun or anything, but he still went to jail for it. Like, it was a legit robbery. And it's like, that's what happens if people don't have some sort of hobby, outlet, creative, whatever. It's like, you snap. And
some people, even with a hobby, still snap.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like that's where I guess that's why it gets under my skin, like, to kind of come full circle about radio stations, labels. It's like, you guys have an obligation. You have an obligation to put these artistic things out there so that people have these outlets, because you may not play music, but just listening to that music might be the thing that keeps you from snapping that day.
Yeah, y'all were talking about listening to the radio versus streaming. Like, I stream all the time, but when I'm in the car, I listen to the radio exclusively. Unless it's a track that, like, we've been working on, because we're like Dwight Yoakam. I don't know if you've ever watched his Dwight Yoakam, you know who I'm talking about?
Who's that? Is he new?
Country singer.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
He
Dwight
he
Yoakam.
he was
He's the
like
Billie Eilish of country.
they had
Yeah.
all these fancy.
Dwight Yoakam did Friends in Low Places, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Google it.
They had all these fancy studio monitors, and everybody was. Beck worked with him on his last.
I believe that.
release.
Beck's cool as shit.
I did know that.
But anyway, he was like, "Yeah, I don't know. Let me go listen to it in the car." And he took it out to his car and he drove around like full blast in the car. And he's like, "I don't know. That's just how I always know if the mix is right, and that's how we know if it's right too. We listen to it in the car."
Even the Big Thicket record we did together, that's where I listened to Everything Was in the Car. Even though I made that record to be listened to in your home, I just know how my car speakers sound. I know, like, this is great.
And
you
the
know?
stuff that you like, you know how it sounds in your car. And then when you're making it, it needs to sound like that. It needs to sound like what you want to hear. But so when I'm in the car, though, I listen to the radio, like 91.7 or 92.5. You ever listen to that Lone Star? I love it.
Yeah.
The Ticket.
Yeah, I listen to the Ticket a lot.
NPR.
I do listen to NPR too. I like
then
NPR.
I know that other guys in the band call him on the phone while he's driving. Looking at Josh.
The radio should be good. The guys, Ben and Skin, that do 97.1 The Eagle now.
The Freak now.
The Freak, I'm sorry, the Freak. I'm showing my age here. But
So old.
it's weird how, like, these guys can change radio stations and still have a following, right? Which tells you there are people who still want to listen to radio, like on a commute or whatever. They don't want to deal with streaming. Which to me says, like, if you're the radio stations, it's like, fucking listen up. Your audience is telling you, we're willing to listen. We are willing to try the station. But again, it goes back to that mutual thing. It's like, it's up to you to give us some good shit, you know, to put something on there. And I don't know. Y'all don't have to whisper. You can just talk about beer.
I mean, no, he wanted an opener.
Oh, opener, yeah.
What I like, I mean, while we're talking about just like band goals, like two of my things that have happened to us in a different band that we were in called the Southern Sea. People told us that we sounded sort of like Death Cab for Cutie, and I had never even heard of them when people were telling me that. He did, but we had a different singer who his voice kind of sounded like Ben Gibbard, but we got. At the time, we were selling CDs like mail order. Like you'd send like a check and then we'd mail it to you. And we got a request from Ben Gibbard in Seattle.
Oh, that's badass.
And we mailed it to him, you know. It's like, really? And
With
then
like a triple extra large T-shirt because he's fat. And
No.
then like next time I saw a picture of him, he's super skinny.
Well, it's a nightshirt now. He goes to
Yeah.
sleep in it.
Well-
so he had to do that thing where he cuts the side and like ties it.
Yeah.
I kinda did
the
hope
old
that,
90s
like-
athletes.
like he was like, "Here, Zoe, this is for you." And like Zoe wore an extra large.
There you go.
But then in Brave Little Howl, when we did that cover song of Exit Music for a Film as a Radiohead song, and then at the end of the year it said, you know how Spotify will send you a thing that says like top listeners for the year, people who shared your music, whatever, and there was like Tom York, Johnny Greenwood, like several people from Radiohead had shared our music that year, and we were like,
badass.
why were they like, look at these guys, they're ripping us off,
like
you
these
know?
motherfuckers.
But I was like, I was
play
talking
cover
to my
exactly
wife
the
about
same
that,
as
and
us.
I'm like, okay, Death Cab for Cutie, he knows who we are. He bought our CD. These guys shared our music, even if it was not because they loved it. They still like
Send it to each other.
It's
and they were
not like a famous thing. It's like we've been inspired by their music for a long time, and that we could maybe reciprocate even in a small way. That's just like heartwarming to me.
Yeah, that's badass. It makes you wonder though. It's like if they did share it, it's like that shows you even how much more weird it is to like, you know, catch some traction and gain fans, because it's like if you can get the guys from Radiohead sharing your music, shouldn't it just be like, all right, cool, you're doing it now. Now you do music for a living, you know? But it's just not that simple.
But even them, like if you, I don't know why I do this. This is like a guilty pleasure. I probably shouldn't do this. I'll look up like
Net worth.
Eddie Vedder net worth.
Oh yeah,
Then I'm like, okay, Lane Staley net worth. I'll just do all these random people. And if you look up Radiohead, it's not that big. Like, not as big as you would think. Like, there are what I would consider to be like amateurs compared to them that have like quadruple. And they've made choices on purpose, like,
But I remember
to not just monetize everything.
I think it was the Rainbows album where they were like, pay what you want,
Yeah.
right? And they that ended up being massively successful financially.
I paid $20.
Right? Like, people who love the music will support it.
Yeah.
And then as an artist, because I'm sure you guys do it all the time at your merch table, right? It's like, if somebody loves the music. Well, but what I mean is, like, if somebody loves the music.
Can we set a merch table up outside the room?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
We'll do it for the one person working outside.
we actually do have better merch now than we have in the past. We have several different shirts and vinyls and CDs.
Yeah,
So
but
if you're coming to a
stickers and
show, bring
koozies.
all your money.
But you guys do the thing that all bands do, which is when someone's like, oh, I don't have any money, you're like, just take it.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's what don't let me run.
It happens all the time, right? Because you'd much rather them have the music than have the money.
Yeah.
I would.
And that's what Radiohead proved. It's like, the people who can't afford it, they'll be like $1.
Yeah.
But they're still going to love your music. Like, they really wanted it. And then the people who
And then maybe
are
they go
doing
to a
well.
show and they spend like $50 on
That's the thing, is like,
yeah.
a couple years later, it's going to come back to you. When they get money eventually, they're going to do something,
There's the gift of the Magi. That's what that's about, right?
I don't know. What is that?
I think it's a Christmas story about giving your hair for a comb or something.
Yep. Whatever you say.
Sure.
So Brave Little Howl is selling hair at their shows now.
No, that's all I'm saying.
No,
We're
sorry.
selling combs. Give us your hair.
Combs.
We can make wigs out of that stuff. Those are worth a lot of money.
2023, they're doing the hair tour starting January.
What's the,
Heavy
what's
metal.
the age of the Aquarius?
Yeah.
I did want to bring this up.
Okay.
Because it's been a thorn in my side for years now. What is your job? Like, what do you do for a
Can't
living?
tell you, man. I'll tell you off here, but I'm not telling you on this mic.
I've texted you privately, just me and you.
What's
So what do
funny
you do?
what's funny is the other band members know. And
guys
yeah,
know?
so please
I
don't
don't
say it on
know.
here. I'll tell y'all afterwards.
I don't
But no,
know.
I bring on too many comics here, and the last thing I need is for some comic to get me fired
you're one
and
of those
lose
kind of
my
doctors.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. It's all in. Well, I won't say what it is, but it's trafficking.
Kindergarten teacher.
No, yeah. No, please, teaching kids, no way.
I want to do that.
I don't want to teach kids at all.
I believe that children are our future.
Yeah, they are, man. But I need somebody else who's better than me to do that. Yeah.
I mean, you're not the worst person I've ever
This
met.
is my job. This is the podcast, man.
Oh, how much do you make doing this?
This is where I'm like, I've got a really successful wife, and she just takes care of everything. No.
Is she looking for a second husband?
No, she's looking for the podcast to make money so she can stop supporting everything. No.
She's looking for a second husband.
Hey, I think I'm pretty good here. We the first vinyl record that I ever helped produce for you guys, live from Big Thicket, which
Yeah,
is
thank you, by
currently
the
still
way.
for sale. We have.
Oh, we look at cameras now?
You can look at this one. You can look at this one.
Oh, okay.
But that album, like, we made back what we put into it. So everything
I don't
else.
believe
sells-
that number. I feel like you just kind of gave up
Yeah,
on it.
I sent that, whenever I texted you and asked you if you could bring some more and how were we doing on that. And then when you said, oh, yeah, we're good on the original investment, so whatever. I
We're
sent
good.
that to the band and they were like, what? No way.
Why don't y'all believe that?
I don't
we've
know.
been
It
to our
just didn't
shows.
seem like there would. I mean,
First of all,
know.
what I did that I enjoyed is I found people that are vinyl lovers to send the record to, who did like Instagram reviews and those types of things, and those really helped sell records. Like, every time somebody did a review of it, records sold. And what's interesting is the Big Thicket album. Like, for people who don't know, these guys performed this fun set at a cabin called Big Thicket at White Rock Lake. We only released one track digitally. If you want to hear the whole performance, which is like an hour, a little over an hour long, it's a double vinyl. You can only hear it on the vinyl. That's the only way it's ever going to be released. And that was just kind of a fun, like,
And there's no track markings.
there's no track markings, there's no grooves for you to change songs. And what you're listening to is a concert started. There are mics around the room. We recorded it, and the concert plays all the way through to the end, and that's it. And you are listening to that concert. We'll never hear another show like that again. So it's just a true moment in time, and that's why I love it. But every time somebody reviewed it, somebody had to have gone and listened to your recorded material to then want to buy the vinyl.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Because it was only one track that was ever released. So, yeah, I've been real happy with it. Everything now is profit.
So who are you doing next for that?
That's been really difficult. I mean, like, I know it sounds like I'm just, boosting up your egos, but I think we got really lucky with the first one because, like, ignorance is bliss, right? Like, none of us kind of knew what we were getting into. We all had an idea of how that night was going to go, and then it just was really fun, and it just kind of worked. And so now, from here on out, you've got an idea of kind of what you want it to be, which can be a bad thing. So my goal is to try to stay pretty loose with it and let an artist kind of do their thing. Because even with y'all, we were talking about just doing acoustic guitars, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, Clay's going to bring like his glockenspiel and these other things. And it's like, hey, Corey's actually going to do drums, and we're going to bring the keyboard. And in my mind, I was like, it's never going to work, And that's just kind of an ego, like, controlling the situation thing, right? And then once we get there and you just back off, it's like, no, it's working. This is great. I love this. This is great. So, I don't know. I've been really...
Big Ticket Part 2, Brave Little Howl?
I don't know.
The Return?
The Part 2 will have to be after we do some more artists. But
I don't want to ever do that again.
2023, you loved it. Shut up.
Dude.
2023, in late 2023, I want to do another band. And my wife and I have been talking about it a lot. Because especially since she was there and she saw all of the background stuff that goes into it, she knows like what's worth it, what's not. And it's hard to choose an artist because it's such a special thing, and you don't want somebody to come in there and like phone it in.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to tell them like it needs to be good. You want them to have fun. You want them like so you want them to go in the mindset of like, hey, if the recording comes out horribly, we just had a fun night playing music, and that's all it'll ever be, and that's fine. And we won't release anything.
Why do you do that with us?
Because I liked it, man. I liked it.
Jerk.
I know you hate it.
I don't hate it. I just don't like it.
I remember when I showed you. I remember when I
I
showed
love
y'all.
it.
I remember when I showed y'all in here. Mark was listening to the whole thing with like his head in his hands and like barely looked up the whole time, and I was like, he's not.
Nah,
good.
he's, this is the good thing about Marcus. He's an indie rocker, man. He doesn't want to listen to a bunch of acoustic music. He's like, where's the overdrive? Where's the jangly guitars, man?
Well,
come on.
I'm
I'm also the band pessimist.
Here's what I want to do moving forward with it, because I don't think it necessarily bringing Corey in with the drums and Clay doing more ancillary stuff. Like, it made me realize like it's not about being acoustic. It's about not having like a PA system.
No amplification. Yeah.
I think you could bring in like a guitar amplifier, but just know
How you
like
say that?
I think like we're only gonna have it at this volume because you've got to be able to sing over it and kind of understanding like you're playing to this room with no PA. You can bring your amps, but you got to keep in mind how this is going to be. And I think that'll keep it pretty special. And it's like I think it's just enough of a handicap where the musician can be like, okay, this is different from a normal show. Maybe this will be kind of a fun experiment as well.
Yeah, when we practiced for that show, we were sitting in a room with no amps and the tiny, horrible practice amp that I used that was like the worst amp that exists ever. But it worked
doesn't
for
it sound
the room.
fun?
It worked for the room, yeah.
And it distorts just enough.
Yeah,
like-
exactly. So we're sitting in the fluorescent lights of that treehouse room, and we're like, okay, let's figure out how we're gonna do this. And so we start playing, and we're like, okay, jingle guitar, jingle jangle. Like we just started like playing stuff, and it was like, okay, well if we like listen and like we kind of play soft and like sing into the room, like we can make this work. This is good. And like a few songs in, we're just like practicing
and then you're like, it's never gonna fucking work. This sucks. I can't hear anything. I don't know where they're at.
I never think that. Mark thinks that. I don't think that, because this is why, and really it's a testament to Mark's songwriting. But to me, if the songs work, like he'll show them to us in acoustic form because that's how he wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it works in that form, then it's going to be a great Brave Little Howl song because we can play it then in any format ever. If it doesn't, then we might still play it, but it's not like almost all of our songs started out acoustic with, singing over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the song shines in different ways. You hear the delicate things that you don't hear when it's full band.
Mm-hmm.
You hear how the three voices go differently, and I like the variety of it.
I love it, and I love that now some of these songs are coming out on the new album. So people who find the new album, become fans, might ultimately find the Big Thicket stuff and go, "Oh, you got to hear this version," you know. And I think
Some
that
of those are really old too.
that's the thing, though. It's like
Yeah.
I think it'll be really fun for people to hear, again, kind of that journey of like, here's how songs like Malibu, Ballad of Gregory Lee.
Can't say got nominated for an Observer Award off of your video.
No, really?
Yeah.
Off that video?
Last year,
I
when
never heard about
best
that.
Song of the year or something.
Yeah,
It was
not bad for a bunch of phone
Well-
cameras.
well. What was interesting about that is it wasn't released on any streaming platform.
And it was, yeah.
Like,
Isn't that
where
crazy?
did you
Yeah.
hear it?
The video alone got nominated for
Wow.
Song of the Year.
And that's not even a recorded, like, it's just now coming out.
Yeah.
But
Well, no. It's actually, we released it. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. It's one of the singles.
Yeah, it's one of the
yeah.
singles.
What was it? Were there any surprises on what you heard from the new stuff? I mean, several have already been released.
It's
so
all- it's
I think
all-
there's about half that's not released.
Well, it's
yet.
all an ego check, though, because I'm one of the few people that have a digital version of Big Thicket, right? So I can listen to it in my car and listen to it over and over, right? And when we were trying to print it all up and do it, of course I'm listening to it constantly, and so there's just a lot of songs where in my mind it's already ingrained, like, this is the version. You know what I mean?
We Three Kings. That's your favorite off the album.
We Three Kings was fun. I
loved it actually.
had
thought
a
it
lot
sounded
of people
beautiful.
say that was really fun.
I felt like that was such a stupid thing to leave in there because it's a Christmas song.
But
if
you
buy the
guys-
album
It
in
was Christmas.
July.
Doesn't matter, man. We talk about it in the liner notes of when it was all going down.
Yeah.
And,
Honestly, that night I thought what was going to happen. Like we had the practice night before. Like,
well,
that's cool. But then,
and to your credit, though, this all started because I think you originally reached out and were like, "Hey, we'd like to bring a guitar or two in on the podcast and record a couple songs."
I almost
right?
did that tonight, by the way.
Yeah, you're always welcome to.
Well, you should have told me that before now.
But Big Thicket kind of started from that, suggestion of like, could we play a couple songs on the podcast? Yeah.
And yeah, but what I thought was going to happen is that we recorded or we rehearsed. I was like, these songs, it's okay. It won't be a total failure. Well, people will enjoy it live. And then when we played that night, you went into it telling us like, yeah, if we get something, we might just release something. Like,
Yeah.
it might be good. We might put a song out. So I'm like, dude, we probably got one or two songs the other night that were good.
Yeah.
And then you brought us all up here and you're like, hey, everybody sit down. Here's some free drinks on me. And you like tried to wine and dine us.
Uh-huh.
And you were like, by the way, we're going to release the whole thing as a full double vinyl. And all I heard was every mistake
Yeah.
in every song, all the alcohol contributing to those mistakes.
Yeah.
The weird thing is that the crowd
His
that was
mistakes.
there. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
not just mine. Everybody.
We're not going to talk about everyone's
Yes.
mistakes.
So anyway,
All right.
but like the crazy thing about that night was that the crowd was perfect. Like the crowd was the best thing about the night. Like we weren't that great, but the audience and how they participated and how quiet they were. It was
That is the only show I've ever been to. That's the most startling thing about the Big Thicket experience was I never knew a crowd would be that respectful. I haven't had the opportunity to go to like a listening room where somebody went to hear a singer-songwriter.
You have
What do you mean?
Big Thicket.
Well, before that. So I've never heard like, oh, these are people who are fans of this music. They're going to be quiet. My concern, because we had free beer, everybody's hanging out. I was like, man, halfway through this thing, somebody's gonna get drunk.
someone
Take a
brought whiskey
phone
for
call
all
or
of us.
something.
Like a
And-
whole bottle of whiskey for everybody in the band.
Kelsey.
Yeah,
Kelsey.
the guys from Petacolis brought a bunch of beer up as well.
They're called 10% beer, of course.
Yeah, and then of course Four Corners Brewery brought
Yeah.
a ton of beer, so thank you for that. But
It was
no, that
all
was
gone before the end of the night.
I literally I saw people, they would like wait until between songs to go get a beer, and then they would be like just trying to open it as quiet as it could. I was like, this never happens. It was great.
It was like
fun.
a comedy show is what it was.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited to put another one on. It's just I've been thinking way too much about who I would like to have do it because it's a big ask, right? Because one, you're saying like, I want you to put on a show, which most artists are like, sure, no problem. But giving them that caveat of like, I would really like it to go extremely well so that I can turn it into a vinyl.
Yeah.
So like bring your A game.
Don't
Whereas you
suck.
guys didn't have that stress. It was just like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think you should approach it that way. Just find an artist that you really dig,
Yeah.
and then ask them to do it. And that maybe number 2 will be harder than number 3 and number 4
Sure.
and number 5. you
Sure.
know.
Number 2 is always.
But
harder.
actually, what I was asking about was surprises on the
the
new
songs?
album that I
Ooh,
just
the
sent
new
you.
album. I think the biggest surprise was probably Can't Say, because was it Can't Say? Can't Say has more keyboard parts on the album version, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't there more synth happening on that?
Yeah,
And like
he
pitch
put it-
bending
Sounds
and
like the Cars. Yeah.
yeah. That was the biggest surprise because I had just never envisioned the song that way.
Mm.
And so that was startling. And once I had heard it, I was like, okay, this is totally different than how I thought this was going to come out. And then, of course, like usual, it's like after a couple listens, you're like, no, this is how Can't Say is now. And that's the other version that we have on Big Thicket. That was probably the most startling one because it was just so, it's like you ever hear somebody on a radio show and you think, this is what that person looks like.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see them in person, you're like, that's nothing like what I thought they
Right.
looked like. That's kind of how that song was for me. Yeah, that one. I was super nervous about y'all recording Ballad because I love the way it came out on Big Thicket. And that was like a song that I was very, like in my mind, I was like, just don't fuck it up because it's so easy to go into a studio and it just doesn't mesh, whatever happens, and I'm really pleased with how it came out. That was the one I was the most nervous about because I was like, this song to me is a very special song. That song and I can't remember if it's the actual title, but Pick Up the Phone.
Yeah.
Those two songs from the Big Thicket thing, I was like, ooh, these are, especially Pick Up the Phone, I was like, this is like a, it's rare that you get those B-sides where you're like, damn, like, let's just pause it for a minute here after that, after listening to that. And the album version still has that feeling, which that's fun. I was very worried about those two songs translating poorly to a studio recorded version,
I think "Pick Up the Phone" is one of my favorite songs off
I
the new
love
album.
it, man.
I think it's the recording on it. So that the 3 songs we do with Pedigo are basically live with vocals overdubbed.
Okay.
So the whole goal
The
with this-
vocals are live, too.
is that live vocal? I
I'm
thought we
pretty
overdubbed
sure.
it. Okay. So that's a live take. But
Wow.
like the goal with this album was to not do what we did before. We sat down and we all recorded separately. We want to do as much live as we could. And the 3 songs we did Pedigo, we all recorded at the same time in the same room, amps partitioned away. And that was the goal, is like to do what we do live, which is what everyone said after the first album. Was like, you guys are so much better live than you are recorded. And we're like, why? Like the recording's great.
Isn't that such a like double-edged to hear? You're like, thank you. Oh, that hurts. Like,
No, I didn't take it that way at all. Like
Yeah?
to me, I was just, I
I
was,
did.
I did too.
to me, I looked at it as trying to wrap my head around why live would be better than the recording.
yeah.
And so, like, I think we all set out with this, like, let's just do as much live as we can and just capture what people are hearing. And now I don't want to ever do that again.
I don't know. Take it record by record. Like, you'll figure out what's right. But I will say
sounds stupid. Let's just make a blank statement or a blanket statement now and do that for the rest of our lives.
one of my favorite sounding albums in terms of how it was recorded is the first Alabama Shakes album. And from what I've heard, that's the way it was recorded. They went to a house, amps were in different rooms. And I think that's what it is. I think no matter what, you always need a little bit of that energy that you feel off the other performer. So even if you're in isolation booths,
Yeah.
there's just something about
No,
like
totally.
even if you're in isolation booths, click track, and everything's structured, there's just something about playing it with them versus
there's a looseness
yeah.
that happens because Corey is a fill drummer, or Corey or drummer in our band.
He's definitely probably the most relaxed in your band. Him or
But like you go in a studio and he has to record by himself. He's very
Yeah.
in his head. But if he's playing with the rest of us, he's gonna go. And when he goes, then Billy's voice goes. And when Billy's voice goes, the rest of us are like, yeah.
yeah.
And so everyone's feeding off of these two centrifugal masses that are like the what's the center of an atom? A neutron?
Nucleus.
Nucleus.
So they're the nucleus of our atom, and like the rest of us are spinning around it and feeding on the gravity they create, and that's how superconductors exist.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
No, I get that.
science in 9th grade.
I get that because also, when you're in a studio and you're recording your part, it's like that's pretty stressful to have people just sitting there being like, "Okay, go, give us the gold, make it happen."
No
but
one
when
ever
you're,
says that.
but yeah, but when you're
Recording
recording,
to us at live.
but when you're recording as a group it does feel like a little pressure's taken off, I imagine, because you're like, well, they're probably going to fuck up before I will.
Right. That's all it is. It's a race to who messes up first.
But really, I think we're getting better at that too.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning of this band, like I think if I went to a studio by myself and I was like, okay, here's my songs, I think that would bother me. But with these guys there with me, I know that we've already agreed this is we're about to slay it, you know. And so when it comes time for me to sing my part or play my part, well, we've already agreed on it. Like, yes, this song slays, so here we go. Let's just record it. Let's get a take of it. Whereas in the past maybe, or if we weren't all together, I think it would be more stressful. But I think Corey, our first, Our Lives Aren't Movies, we recorded with Mackenzie Smith, and he's an amazing drummer. And so I think there was some of that with Corey too, like wondering.
I can see some tension there, yeah.
Like, but
well, and I think Corey is Corey a Midlake fan also?
Yeah,
like he likes that band,
all are.
Which is
great.
I'm going to go ahead and go on record here. I have nothing against the Midlake guys. Every interaction,
everything you say from now on, I'm recording on my phone. I got to play for them in like 20 minutes.
Please don't record this.
Okay.
Every interaction I've had with those guys, I've enjoyed, and then I've watched a couple of their live shows. Like there was a festival that they were on that I watched, and it's like I can't say anything negative about performance, about all that, but it's just never clicked with me.
No,
you know what I mean? But a part of me hates that because I'll talk to some people who are like, "Oh my God, Midlake, they're amazing," and you're like, "What am I not getting here?"
I'm on the reverse side of that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So my favorite band is Pavement.
I know that. Yeah.
And for years, I'm wearing a Pavement shirt. I think right now I can't see my chest. I'm looking up, but my neck doesn't bend. I don't know what I'm wearing anymore. So back to what I was saying. So they were a band, and people were like, "Oh yeah, I guess whatever." Then somehow it became cool to like Pavement, and I had the shirt on in Deep Ellum. I got stopped 5 times on the way here. Dude, they're so awesome. I love that band. I was like, where were you when I was in high school? You were the guy beating me up.
Yeah,
no, I never got beat up.
But that goes back to you never know when people are going to find music years later, and all of a sudden it's getting more popular.
But no, I mean they just sold out. Like they're doing. I went and saw them in Chicago, 2 sold out nights. How am I going to open my next beer when you take that away from me? What am I going to fidget with?
maybe you won't.
Hey, Dad, can I please have that back? That's only for the people who have the YouTube stream.
Yeah. You got to watch YouTube for that interaction.
Yeah, it was typical band stuff. But no, that's what I was going to say. Is like it is this weird thing of it's sort of what's cool now is going to go away, and then whatever isn't cool now will become cool.
Yeah.
And I think you see that in the music scene I don't know why I always think of this podcast being music versus comedy.
Sure.
But it's not really, like they're very similar. I went to my first 2 comedy shows in 2 weeks back to back, like recently.
Oh, hell yeah.
I hate it.
Well, shut up.
It makes me so nervous. Like, why go see a comedy show?
Matt, do you remember who you saw?
Yeah. Ahmed Hyenas in Fort Worth.
Ahmed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I don't remember who I saw in Chicago, but it was a couple of people. But if someone bombs doing comedy, the room is dead. There's no getting over it. Like the tension for me, it's unpalatable. Like it makes me sick to my stomach. But a band, like you go see a terrible band, you're like, this sucks. But you can also leave at any moment. You can smoke a cigarette, you can go get a drink.
It's also not quiet. Even if they're bad, there's noise.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like watching a comedy show, if somebody's bad, you're held hostage. There's no getting away from it. And you feel like, as a person, I want to laugh. I want to like let them live a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm like the one, and like now I'm the one person clapping.
Yeah.
And now I'm the enemy.
You try to do the couple like you're like, I can, if I start laughing a little bit, like, I'll get the laughs going. But like, and then we'll all be a part of this.
Why go to a comedy show and be put in that situation? Like,
Man,
I think comedy is great. I think it's brilliant. I think they're geniuses. But go to a rock show and just get hammered and don't even listen to the bands. Like, just wake up next day and be like, yeah, I went out.
That's not the point of going to shows.
I know.
Comics are another breed, though, man.
The thing about shows, like, I think this is what people are saying about our stuff when they say that the album, I don't have the feeling I have when I listen to the album as when I'm there. And it's because when you're there, it's an experience. The thing is happening. This is never going to happen exactly like this ever again. If you listen to the album, it's going to be exactly the same every time you hear it. You know?
So I will say that's one of my favorite moments on that Big Thicket album is I'm so terrible with song names. It's like we've made this record together and
I don't know songs.
Okay.
We, in fact, on a lot of our set lists, you would not know what the song is.
It's like I know songs, like I'll sing, but the song that we play with the claps, you play with the claps at the end.
Crystal Lake.
Thank you, Crystal Lake. That's one of my favorite moments on that album is when the whole crowd just kind of exploded with these claps.
I'm always amazed that people understand that part and
Yes.
clap along with us because it's.
And yeah,
We don't like give them the whole, hey, there's going to be a part of the song
Yeah.
where you're going to clap along. It's going
Right.
to be this beat right here. It's
Yeah.
just, it starts and people are like, yeah, I like
well,
clapping.
in that group that night were like they were overpowering y'all, and then it's like to go back to Corey, who's just kind of like the lovable goof. It's like you hear him singing like out of key on it as well, and it's like that's the fun of a show though. And it's like even the Sundown at Granada show that my wife and I went back to. It's like you're in that moment, you're having a good time, you're singing songs, and you realize like that's why I like going to see live shows.
I think one thing there's
What
a couple
are y'all
bands.
doing?
Dude, there's a pocket knife.
Billy's opening a multi-tool. I don't know. He's working on the table right now. I don't know what's going on.
He's got a screw loose.
We're all ADD tinkers. So when there's not something like that's
That's a
why I drink
star bit.
compulsively.
Yeah.
I got one of those in my back pocket.
But
Was
no,
that,
like,
is that like a T-23? What is that? Like,
is that a Terminator
I don't think
reference?
it's that big.
okay.
No, like one thing I love. I mean,
Terminator.
you can't laugh at a joke after it's been like 30 seconds.
No, you totally can't.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
6 seconds.
I can exaggerate. That's part of my license as an artist. One of the things I really appreciate and love, like I've been in bands before, and they were good bands, maybe better than Brave Little Howl. No one's gonna say anything. But Brave Little Howl, when we play live, we play our butts off, man. Like, there's not anyone in the band who's coasting. Like the show you were at, it was like a crazy night for us emotionally as a band. It was not a typical show by any stretch of the imagination. Yet everyone went in, played their parts, poured their hearts out, and sang.
There was a personal thing that had happened with one of the members. News that it was sad news that
Oh,
had
that
happened
sucks.
like 5 hours before the show.
Oh, it's
But
brutal.
the rest of us found out like
Right before.
an hour before.
Yeah. But again, that goes back to music, right? Like you need an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
You need that's what it's good for. Are those times when you sometimes you go, I can't control this, but I can come up here and play some music right now.
No, there have been shows where I've turned around to Corey in like a big moment where it feels like everyone's with us, like everyone on stage, everyone in the crowd, and I look at Corey and Corey's crying. And I'm like, now I'm crying, you
Oh,
idiot.
Corey.
Don't cry on stage. It's for women in baseball or something. Isn't there a movie about that?
So I want to take it back. I want to
Take it back. Bring it back. Bring it back.
I wanna
Bring it back.
I want to
Well,
bring it
I want to
back
say this.
to a
Josh is
moment.
also the most not emotive on stage.
Yeah, Josh is about to come on and go like, so everything's bullshit
Right,
that they
right.
just said.
I'm always
No. I'm just gonna talk about. I struggle as a musician to be, I guess, imaginative. I need inspiration. I need. I grew up playing classical music. I'm used to form and notation and things that are supposed to be a certain way, right? So, for example, going all the way back,
I'm going to cut you off a
Wicker
little bit
Park.
because the first time they were on this podcast, we were talking about that because you weren't here that night, and we were
was
talking
in
about
Ireland.
Yeah, we were talking about how you were very formally trained,
Mm-hmm.
and we were joking around about how much of a struggle it must be for him to come in where they're like, "What if you just do like a do?" You know?
Well, I can interpret do-do-do-dos. I know what they mean.
But we were saying like, I bet he's in there just going like, "Guys,
I'm not.
this goes to this, and then we do this, and just listen to me."
I'm not.
That's 50% of the time.
So going all the way back to Wicker Park, because I think the thing that really helped me to have imagination about that song is when Marc brought up Only in Dreams, and he just gave that to me as like he does a really good job of like giving me some sort of like go point, like some sort of reference, and I always have that sort of reference in my mind when I have like a musical idea, I typically am like channeling something, right? So for him to kind of give the thought of like the instrumental at the end being this sort of like thing that's building and it's multiple parts crossing one another, you know, I think that like you were talking about like the third time we played it and you know that bringing it all the way back, right? But yeah, that to me really helped me in my part for that song kind of develop the musical workings of that because I had something to like connect it to. I had something. My brain's super analytical, and I think in numbers and blocks and shapes, and you know, and so it's like, yeah, it was helpful.
I think that's the hard part about playing live is like, it's a struggle between being in the now, like now being present moment of being in front of people, having performed music, but also the element of performing music, which is a bizarre. I mean, I don't even know how Josh measures that in his head with classical background. But for me, like the performance is like, just don't play the wrong note. Yeah, I'm not worried about beat or anything else. I just don't want to play the wrong note because that's what people hear. And then the element of what the song's about, like where it came from, where the imagery and the feel is, and you take these like sounds stupid, like a mood board. Like a song is a mood board, and you pull from this mood board to where your lyrics and your chord progression and your melody and everything comes together to tell you, like, give you a location, give you a story, and not pulling it back to Pavement, the greatest band of all time, next to the Beatles. That's controversial for some reason, but
no, it's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of Beatle hate right now.
Beatles #1.
Yeah, first of all, anytime I meet someone who's like, the Beatles are overrated, I just want to go immediately. I'm just like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah, they can't.
Fuck
Like,
you.
if you say the Beach Boys and Beatles, you don't like them. I can't be your friend. I just can't trust you. You have bad taste in life.
Yeah, it's like, you may not like them, but fuck
Right.
you, they're great.
You're gonna tell me. Oh, never mind. But what you do is you're creating like this mood board. You're pulling it all together. You're putting a song under it, and then you're presenting that song live in front of people with like what we had the other night, where we have another emotion of what's happened to a member in the band and what he's going through, and it's stupid, but like the six of us, as much as we fight and hate each other, we also love each other more than we hate each other. And
Way more.
Like, I don't think anybody actually hates. I may be wrong, but I
Well,
don't
you
think
have to have a connection with someone to genuinely hate someone,
right.
or otherwise you just be indifferent.
I don't think anybody
You know?
genuinely hates.
No.
That was hyperbole
That-
on my
that-
part.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like,
Yeah,
if you're arguing with someone about something, if you're having a confrontation,
No.
it's probably rooted in, there's something there between the
The
two
reason-
people,
yeah.
or you would just be like, fuck off, and you'd leave.
Right.
It's
you know?
more like family.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how you get together and
Mm-hmm.
certain people in your family, y'all just know how to push each other's buttons because
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
each other, and you just, a lot of times it's great and then sometimes it's not, but we're still family and we love each other, and
It's-
so many people tell us after the show, like, part of what I loved about that is just watching you guys interact with each other while you're doing your thing.
Like that's it. It's the mood board pulled to the playing the right note, playing to the moment, and it's stretched across six guys who are doing this together to. I don't want to say we're ever performing for a crowd. It's almost as if I personally close my eyes and just go. I don't look out hardly ever. And I do that deliberately because when I open my eyes, I want to see the other guys playing the songs with me. And I don't want to worry if there's one person, if there's 4,000 people. I don't want to play to that. I want to play to what I committed to and what we have written together and presented.
Yeah.
And I want that to be the thing.
But an interesting part of music, like if you watch a Tarantino movie, you don't think, does he actually capture people and trap them in a room and like slice them and cut them when he's not making movies, right? You realize that he's presenting a story,
Yeah.
right? And our lyrics and our songs, like there's definitely parts that touch our lives, but there's also songs that are just written about things that happen, like Pick Up the Phone. Yes, I do have some family members that don't talk to each other, and it could be solved by a phone call. Maybe, potentially, try it, But it's not unique to me. It's not unique to our family. It's it's a thing. People let small things drive a wedge into their relationship, and they could solve it. Just let's communicate, you know.
I think that's why I enjoy that song so much, though, is it's just vague enough. You know what I mean? A lot of songs, like if I ever play or write anything, I notice I'm really bad. I'm wordy. I want to put a lot of lyrics on things. I want to put a lot of stuff into things. And so I think I really enjoy those songs that have that kind of brevity where the lyrics, you know, I didn't even notice it on, oh my God, what's the song?
Can we pull out songs?
The only digital release from Big Thicket.
The One Time I Died.
That One Time I Died.
Oh, okay.
It's like that. It's like it took me a minute to go, yeah, we're just repeating the same words here, you know, over and over, but the swell makes you feel like it's different lyrics, right? Pick up the phone's very similar. It's like you feel like there's a lot more lyrics happening, but really it's more of there's a lot more emotions happening as it keeps going, right? Which is a nice trick.
It's a touch.
Yeah, it's a really good illusion, and that's what that's part of what makes me really like that song is you're like, I don't know, somehow with very few words you took me on an emotional trip, which is difficult to do, and it's just kind of a testament to like sometimes simple things are really what you need, and like kind of full circle, like if there's an issue with like a loved one or something, that's like it might just be as simple as picking up a fucking phone and just being like, and both of y'all just be like, I thought you were no, I thought you were no, I'm not mad. Like, you want to get a beer? Okay, yeah. And then it's like that's a lot of life. Is
like the song Can't Say. Somebody asked me like, so is that song's about adultery, right? And who did it? And I was like, no, it could be,
yeah,
but it's just a song about people being people, and then saying, you want to know the real truth? Do you want me to tell you the truth? And yes, they're like, yeah, tell me the truth. And they're like, oh, you shouldn't have told me. It'd been better if you had. One time years ago, I was a part of this Bible study, and they were talking about forgiveness and confessing sins, and there was a certain segment of the people that were saying you should confess everything. And I said, like, okay, so if sometimes you think, I wish my spouse were dead, don't tell your spouse that. It will be hurtful, not helpful. And they were saying, no, but you just should come clean. And I said, no, that's some things you bear it. You don't have to put it on them. But there's a, you know, so the song.
By the way, I'm the opposite. I think if you don't think about killing your spouse, you don't actually love your spouse. I don't think you're in a real committed relationship if you don't think about murdering them every now and then.
That's fair. I mean,
but you know that there's in a way like a lot of the songs that we play, Marc wrote the lyrics for. It's not my story. But people assume that it is my story. I'm like, no, I've been married for 22 years. I want to also say it's not necessarily
my story either.
Yeah.
I felt like you're punting off on me like
no,
I
you're
have
right.
a cocaine problem.
No, you're right. There are songs about feelings and about ideas and about common things that happen.
Yeah.
Some of them touch us, but not all of them, you know. But it is definitely things that if we can't be empathetic, we're definitely sympathetic to the plight of the protagonist.
Yeah. I try to guess now which one of y'all wrote the song. I
We'll
won't ever tell you, but
you.
I try to go like, I wonder if I think that was this guy.
I'll out myself right now as Inorganic as being the worst lyrics I've ever written for any song. It's about online dating, and after I wrote them and sent them to Billy, I was like, hey, maybe this will work. I was like, no, never write a song about online dating or dating apps. I guess that's the right term. Online dating is so dated.
I think it's great. It's
you know when you get on the line?
Yes. No. But it was one of the things where like I was like, I love this guitar part. I love the melody. Here's some filler lyrics. I think it's kind of funny, the idea of someone counting how many drinks you've had. But that happens when you go on a Bumble date and you're an alcoholic. They're like, golly, you've had like 4 drinks in a minute. I'm like, whoa, they were shots. And that doesn't play super well.
You're like, it's called a Long Island iced tea.
Right.
Okay.
But that's all, again, hyperbole and not real life. because I also want to be a comedian. I just don't want to put a room through it.
Can I talk to you about your recent comedy experience?
If you really want to hear the truth.
I want to hear it, man, because I love comedy just as much as I love music. And I'm in the same camp. Like, I want more people to go to more comedy shows, just like I want people to go to more live music shows. What did you
tough, dude.
What did you find uncomfortable about it? Like, the performers were good, right?
Yeah, they were all great.
So why did you not like it?
No, it's not that I didn't like it. I went in with fear and trepidation, knowing that I was going to have to fake laugh and fake clap. And
You didn't think they would just be funny and you might just laugh?
dude, I've been enough music shows to know that a lot of the bands suck.
Yeah, but this was a comedy
Nobody
show.
we've ever played with, but
It's
I'm
not a
sure
music
like
show.
out there in the
He
world.
says that with the utmost humility.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been to our shows where we sucked. We're about to play a show without keys on Friday.
Do you remember a favorite, like, do you remember a moment where somebody just made you, like, you weren't thinking about laughing, you just laughed. You just gut busted, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, they
Dude,
slayed me
honestly,
with that.
when we went to Hyenas like 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
we got stuck on the front of stage. And they said, like, before they set us down, like, hey, we're really sorry. This is the only day we have a little fit you for.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys good to sit at the front stage? And we looked at each other like, okay. It's my girlfriend's sister's birthday. She just turned 21. She's wearing cat ears and a bright red dress.
So you're like, oh God, they're going to focus on us.
I'm like,
Yeah.
this is going to be bad. First comic.
Don't call me a target.
Yeah, first comic comes up, makes a little bit of whatever. Well, it was actually not even a comic. It was the host.
Stay on top.
Well, the host is a comic.
Okay.
They're
so-
just usually a...
No, he was
like-
a local guy.
Yeah,
he
they're
was,
more like an entry-level comic.
Dude, I wish I could remember his name. He was really good. He's from UTA or UTD. He went to UTD.
Do you remember what he looks like at all?
I can't say it without getting canceled. So he's not white.
Okay. He went to UTD or
Yeah.
UNT?
UTD.
Is he big?
You're off
small?
mic. You're off mic. You can say whatever.
Is he Chinese?
No, but
Okay.
close. Think in that same continent.
Arun Rama?
Yeah, I can say. I mean, I don't know the particular.
Was he
word.
an Indian guy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Like has an actual Indian accent
Yeah.
as well?
He said he just came over and went to graduate school at UTD.
I believe that's Arun, and Arun is one of my favorite comics.
Dude, he was great.
He's really funny.
He talked about. Well, I won't do his whole bit because I don't know if that's fair. I don't know how etiquette works for comedy.
Well, just tell a little bit about it. Don't give away like punchlines and stuff. But, like, what was the premise?
He talked about how India, they just like, oh, it'll pass.
Yes, that's
Okay.
Arun. Okay, yeah.
And like,
yeah.
and dealing with America, we're like, dude, I need this now, and and so it was very true. And
He's
I
a
laughed.
funny dude. He's got great premises. He's one of my favorites that it's hard to talk about comedy without ruining their shit, right? Because comedy is one of those weird things where
Because
once
music sounds stupid. You're like, when it goes ... It's just
but
you're
music,
not ruining anything.
but music you can listen to over and over and over, and it's like once you hear the punchline to a joke, it's kind of never as good as the first time you heard it. It's
like
hard to
sex.
repeat the joke all the time. So, but please go watch Arun Rama. No, he's one of my favorites, man. He's funny and he's got a real unique way of looking at it because he's not an Indian that was born in America.
Right.
He is an immigrant, so he's got a very unique perspective about immigrating here, and he's a smart guy. I enjoy his writing.
No, it was.
Yeah,
like,
I'm glad you got to watch him. So you watched
Yeah.
him at Hyenas, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a good show. I
Yeah.
mean, that was better than Chicago, which I thought Chicago would be the pinnacle of comedy.
What happened after Arun? He was just the intro,
Yeah.
right?
Do
He
you
was
remember
in
the feature?
Yeah,
I can guess the feature if you tell me a little bit.
It was Ahmed.
Ahmed was the feature.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was the
No. He was the headliner.
Yeah.
The feature. So this is stupid. Did they have terms for that?
Yeah.
No one's like, the middle band's the featured band.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's like you have opener, support, and headliner. It's way simpler.
And comics are like, what the fuck is support? Call it a
Right.
feature already.
Yeah, you're being feared.
So what was
well,
the feature?
in Fort Worth, they call that the Fort Worth headliner because no one's played last in Fort Worth because Fort Worth people don't stay late.
Yeah.
They'll have kids. I guess that's the thing. In Fort Worth, you get a kid when you move there. I don't know how it works. The feature was a guy from Long Beach. He was on tour with Ahmed.
Okay. I don't know that person.
He was
probably.
a white guy.
You're gonna get canceled.
I
No,
I already don't like him.
No, white people are the worst.
I don't like them.
Billy's
Billy
Billy's
pulled
like
up-
distancing
Billy
away.
pulled
He's
up
like,
the mic like he was about to really
comfortable.
drop something. And like,
No, I like all the people.
Man,
all the people are good. I'm not worried
Yeah.
about the people.
Yeah, this is a podcast. No one's going to listen to this.
No,
I can say whatever I want.
Our 15 listeners, they tune out after an hour and 30 minutes. We're at hour
Right.
39, so
Yeah,
it's just us now.
This is freestyling.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to hear my newest rap?
Yes, please.
All right.
We already had Billy rap on the show.
Oh, it's true. Here we go. I've been working on this lyric line for a little bit, so it's only like two bars. But
Okay.
Miami is a bad. Wait, no. Hold
There
on.
you go. Perfect.
Miami is a terrible place to waste a midlife crisis. The real estate and the inflation drives the prices. There we go.
Nice.
Thanks.
That's sad.
It's called South Beach. It'll be a song someday.
It's going to be on the next album.
No, it's actually
Billy's not.
Fingers
approving.
crossed.
Man, I think there are so many parallels between comedy and music that is
Actually,
crazy.
after
I
going
think
to-
you guys should all be best friends
No,
because
after
y'all
going
go
to
through
comedy
similar
show,
struggles.
I feel different. I feel like before, like just listening to podcasts and being the guy who's afraid to go to a comedy show.
Mm-hmm.
After having been to a comedy show, I feel like they're very different.
Yeah. I want to take you to an open mic now.
No,
I think they have way bigger huevos than musicians.
Yeah,
I think we get to
what?
hide around a lot of stuff, and they don't. I think they're way more vulnerable, and like he's saying, they have the constant fear of silence after they speak.
Yeah.
We don't.
Like no one claps after a song. You just go to the next song.
Yeah.
Like-
You're just like, fuck you.
Right. Like maybe they'll like this song better, but if you lose a joke, like that,
It's
that-
brutal.
Yeah.
But he's not saying he doesn't like comedy.
No,
he
I
watches
love
comedy all the time, just
Yeah.
not local.
Well, you
Ken-
were just saying the
I-
fear of being in the front row and
Yeah.
being a part of this accidentally is.
I can out myself as a guy who has read the Ken Jennings book on the history of comedy.
Okay.
That's how much I like comedy, but I also hate comedy.
Yeah. Well, have you gone to any open mics?
No, why would I waste
Oh,
my time?
I would love to take you to an open mic sometime. Just
I wouldn't even go to open mic music night. Just to be
open mic
honest.
comedy is very different than open mic music because open mic music, like even if someone's bad, you're like, well, you're getting up there, you're trying, you know. Open
I
mic,
just want to tell them to stop now.
open
Give
mic
up.
comedy, there is just dead silence, and it's just, and to hear someone,
That's my nightmare. That's why I don't want to go to comedy
man,
shows.
Yeah.
but here's the thing is like,
I can't handle it. I can't
I
handle
feel
it.
like it
Come
gives
with
you.
me to this place. We could be very uncomfortable the whole time.
No, but what it is you see something, right? Because when you see a comic with total dead silence, and then they move on to the next joke, and they're still trying. They're like, maybe this one.
No. It's
And
like late night at the Apollo.
Yes,
it's
yes,
over.
yes.
It's
But
over.
the thing is like that takes
There's no
so
coming
much,
back.
No resolution.
so much,
Yeah.
like gigantic balls to be like. They hated that one.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm gonna get them with this one.
But to tie
and
back
sometimes it works, but sometimes it's just 3 to 5 minutes of dead silence.
No, there's a
and
hook
then
that-
after it goes horribly wrong, they go back the next day and try it again. And it's
Yeah.
like I feel like there's some kind of life lesson there about like
There
if you
is,
can get through
totally.
that shit. That's where the musicians and the comics differ is like the comics go through so much abuse before they ever get any reward.
You saw
ever
the lady
get-
over the weekend
Oh,
who had the beard
brutal.
thrown at her, right?
I did see that. Yeah, I think it's Ariel something.
Yeah, Ariel.
Yeah.
It begins with an E.
But
Yeah.
I think the I forget who this was. You had two comics on recently. One of them was from Houston. They were living in New York.
Oh, that's
I listened to
Grady
the-
Pruitt and Nick
Yes.
Palmero.
Yeah, and-
Palomero. I'm so
we
sorry,
listened to
Nick.
everything you
You're
say,
really
by the way,
funny.
Travis.
yeah. I listened to it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Oh, thanks.
But when I was, you were asking him about his experience in New York, and he was saying, well, first I was just like going to, 2 or 3, 10-minute, 5-minute things every day. I was, he was saying, I'm just going to do like this 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I'm going to do it every day. Just plow, I think probably the bigger parallel would be like a busker, like a musician
That's a
who's
good
just
point.
standing in the same spot every day and or moving around town and just hoping someone will care somewhere, right? Like that is a parallel to a comic more than what we're doing.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
Well, I
supposed
think
to
there's
be
also
there.
an appreciation of the craft. Like a comedian sits down and writes for a certain amount of time a day. I sit down and write for 90 minutes a day, every day, and then I get bonus time if I don't have anything else going on. But you have, like for me, you don't wait for inspiration. You just plug away, and eventually something clicks, and you're like, okay, and you save that away as like a future song.
I see the comedian that you're talking about more like the inside Llewyn Davis, like the starving artist, you know, like the singer songwriter, who's just like going to every open mic and just to play his songs.
That movie is so good.
Oh, it's so good. But
Love that movie.
just like get it out there and let people hear who you are, but also like work on your craft. Like, how are my songs? How are my jokes? How are they landing on people? You know, like how do the people respond when they hear it? You know,
but that's so different though. Like, so in music, if you wrote songs and then based what your style was going to be like based upon what people responded to, then it would be like you sold out. But in comedy, of course you're going to tell the jokes that people respond to because they think it's funny. You're gonna. I mean, I can see how they wouldn't want to tell the same joke.
I think you're
over.
right, and I think that's a trap that some of them fall into, right? Because it's a big fear to go up there and work on new material because you've got this other stuff that's just A+. I know it gets laughs, and that's kind of their crutch. Like that's what I see, and I'll go on the record saying I don't judge any comic for doing this because I don't do stand-up comedy. It's incredibly hard. Not judging you. This is just kind of a perspective, but you do see them. It's like I'll see the same person doing some material for like couple years, and you're like, I know you're funnier. I know that you can write new stuff. I know you're capable of it. I think it's just that security blanket. Like this gets that laugh every time, and it does. Like they'll go in front of the crowd, they'll do great, but it's like, man, I know you got other stuff. You're so funny.
When you look up the comedian on Instagram and you see like 4 videos of them telling the same joke in different places, and you're like, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's it's a funny joke, but
and I think that's where a band has a benefit is you guys have 5 other people who can go, okay, we need something else now. You know, whereas a comedian's solo, and if they don't have a good support system to tell them, like,
but still, there's certain songs we have to play it live every time we play it live because people want to hear it.
True.
Like when we had the residency at Sundown was the most evident time that we had to play this particular song twice a night. Like we couldn't just do it once; we had to do it at the end of and it was a song that like we used to use as a closer all the time because we don't even rehearse the song. Like I don't know the last time we rehearsed it.
Is it Nashville or Crystal Lake?
Neither of those.
Oh, really?
In fact, Nashville has replaced it in the set order to go because we've moved it up.
I don't know what you're doing over there.
Tupelo.
Oh my gosh! Well, of course. Why didn't I guess Tupelo?
So Tupelo forever was the closer.
Yeah.
And we never worked and we even added somehow a jam into it without even rehearsing it. It just happened because that was a song that I had the chords to and I hated. Because I felt like it was too country, and then these guys, it was actually Josh and Billy at Josh's house one night with his piano. He was like, he has a beautiful now it's not so beautiful. At the time it was beautiful half grand piano, and he's like playing along with it. He's like, dude, this is a cool song. And I'm like, dude, and they were like, you need to write some lyrics to it. So I went home the next day and I wrote the crappy lyrics that exist in that.
You say crappy lyrics, but every show I've been to, people love to sing
the
that
weirdest
song.
thing about that
they
song
love that
is
song.
Like they thought people have thought more and asked more questions about the lyrics of that song than I gave thought to.
Yeah,
writing the song. I mean, like it's about Faulkner and about like chasing love that it's forbidden.
Yeah, the first time we played Goldthwait, that older gentleman comes up to you and he's like,
"What is that about?
What is this about?" He's like, if you sing it out loud and what does it mean?
That's a really good impression of him.
He was like so enthralled.
He was wearing boots and he had long hair.
With the double meaning of what you were talking about.
Well, no, and that's the thing. Like, it was a joke to me when I wrote it. Like that everyone's going to shoot this down and say this is stupid. But I was like, man, it kind of works.
He's
it works.
lying. That's not what it was.
I always think you guys.
He came in and he's like, all right, guys, I got a fucking hit. Let's record.
Yeah. No.
It's a good song. Marc is a self-deprecating person.
Oh, I already know. Yeah.
But
there's a song about that.
But I do understand what he's saying about comedy. Like sometimes when I've seen people, even sometimes if I watch a sporting event and someone is singing the national anthem or something, like I feel tense. I feel embarrassed. Not embarrassed, like anxious for them.
Yeah.
Like Fergie.
Even if I watch The Office, which I love The Office, I love it, but I feel anxious. They're just so bad. Like I would watch it more, except I feel that way.
Cringe a little
I just
bit.
Can't watch it.
Whereas me, I fucking love that. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because there's just something real about that awkwardness that I enjoy. But when I go to watch those open mics, I think part of me, I'm rooting for them all the time. It's like, I want you to pull up out of this nosedive. I want you to get that laugh.
But you're also going to watch it crash and burn too.
Yeah, and like, I'll never disrespect them.
I'm not going to turn away.
I would never go up to an open micer and be like, that fucking sucked. But
you would think it.
I'm always rooting, you know. I'm like, oh, just get that fucking laugh, man. Get it. And
Do you ever give like the full on sympathy laugh?
in the beginning, I used to, but I think now it's better. I don't know. I struggle with it.
It's better to reserve it.
I think it's better to be reserved, right? Because what's worse than being quiet, I think, is being like falsely optimistic.
Yeah, fake.
I don't want
Fake.
that person to think like this is going incredibly well. I'll
Right.
keep going this direction.
That's how we became a band, actually.
No, see,
False
but
optimism.
that does happen to the band, like
Yeah.
second guessing after the set.
Yeah.
And so various people say that went poorly. No one was into it at all. And I'll say, what show were you at, dude? Didn't you hear everybody singing?
Yeah.
The fact that 6 people can play within 3 feet of each other for an hour and a half and come away with completely different
It's the modern
understanding of what just happened.
Yeah.
And like, they just did that because they didn't want us to feel bad or something like that. Like, which
Maybe.
is what you're mentioning about sympathy,
Maybe
laughs, and comedy.
Here's the way I'll go, right? Like if you're coming up, let's say you're doing a 15-minute set or 20-minute set or whatever, right? And
Where's that at?
people are well. I mean,
comedy. My bad, my bad.
comedy. Yeah.
I was
No
like,
way I
it
would-
takes longer to set up than that.
So like your first couple jokes, if they're not landing, I'll probably give you some laughter, hoping I want you to feel relaxed on stage, especially like openers, features, people who are kind of newer to it. Maybe they're new to clubs, and it's like I want you to feel relaxed. So I might give a couple like, try to get it going for you a little bit. But if you can't get there, then I usually kind of go silent. And it's like, I don't know if it's a dick move or not, but if they look at me when I'm being silent, I'll still try to be like pleasant. Like I might have like a smile. Like I won't be like, arms crossed. Like
Yeah.
this fucking sucks. But the whole time I'm rooting, I'm like, man, I'm drinking. I want to laugh. You can do this. You got it. And I've only ever been to one show. And there was only ever one performer. I will not say their name. There's only ever
Sorry
been,
about this, by the way.
there's only ever been one comedian where I've just been like, this person fucking sucks. And when I saw them, it was dead silence through their entire set, multiple times. And it's like, I would never tell them to stop doing it, but I would be like, you need to really evaluate what you're doing and try to get better. Like you have what you think is good is not good right now. And every time I've seen you, no one is responding. So this is not just like I caught you on an off night,
That's interesting because, like, for a band, I think most bands you ask would be like, man, we're never going to be stars. This is just a thing we do because we're passionate about it. Then you're on stage, and for a moment, you feel like you're a star because you're there, it's happening, people are applauding, people, like, there's a reaction. Like, you're living in the moment of the music. And then it goes away. Like, do comedians... Do they feel like, hey, I'm going to go kill the set, or I'm going to, may flop tonight, but I'm building towards something? Like, do they have an idea?
The good ones that I talk to always feel like they're about to be the shittiest person on the stage.
Okay.
Yeah, the ones who I think are very funny, when I've talked to them, they're like, even after, like, they'll have a good set, and they're like, I don't know, man, like, those couple people weren't laughing. This fucking sucked. Like, I should quit this.
Yeah. Anytime somebody walks to get a beer, I'm like,
Some of the good ones are like, I've only met a couple good ones who are actually good, and they're like, no, I know what I'm doing. I know I'm funny. If you don't like it, you just don't like my style, but I'm good at what I do.
Right.
And those people typically have a lot of experience, And and
that is how I feel.
but I mean, it's true. Like, and I think
Not that we're awesome, but
I think that's what's
we're
hard for
good
artists.
musicians. you
Yeah,
know?
it's like it's hard for artists to get to a place where they say like, no, I'm good. You just don't like my style. It's not for you, but I am good, and other people really like it, and that's a hard place to get to.
I learned that like I can't talk to Billy about a set till it's been like 24 to 48 hours. Like after a
It's
set's over,
downer,
I'm just
man.
like, good job, man.
Well, this is what used to happen for like 15 years of band life. Is
23.
The show ends, second guessing, downer, drive home depressed. Okay, let's regroup. And in like the last 2 years, I'm like, nope.
Just shut
Don't
it down.
do it.
You can-
Like, let's talk
you
about
can
it
talk to me later.
tomorrow or 2 days from now. Let's just enjoy the moment. Well, and I've told the band this multiple times. Like, we have no idea how many more shows we're going to play. I might get hit by a bus on the way home. Like, who knows what's going to happen? This is our
He
last
likes
show.
to run in front of buses. It's
Yes.
just a
I'll
hobby.
tell, but it's kind of a joke. But I'll say, okay, guys, let's have a great one. This is our last show,
We actually do say that a lot. Like,
and
they-
we
they should
knuckle.
come out
You know,
this-
we pound it, and knuckle
Yeah.
bump, and have a good set.
I have to pee so bad. Do y'all want to talk without me, or do you want to pause it for a second?
Let's pause it. I
You wanna pause it?
2, 3 headphones.
All right, so we're back from the break, but we also decided,
Man, that
we-
was a long pee, Travis.
we
Are you
covered
all right?
everything we want to cover.
Yeah.
The simple fact is you guys have a new album out. It's great. Please,
Thank you.
everyone, go listen to it.
Can I just want to say thanks for all the support you've given us over the years, like from the first album to the Big Thicket to now. It's incredible, and I don't think we do it for people who like us, but I sincerely, you keep us going in the darkest moments.
true.
So thank you for what you do, and thanks for like supporting other artists and supporting comedians and supporting arts. I mean, Tony Jury, I don't even know what he does. He's an enigma, but you've brought so much to people. So thank you, Travis.
I appreciate it. I mean, look, honestly, when I listen to your music, especially when you guys sent me that advanced copy, you guys get me psyched about music, and that's why I do this show, man. It's like when people get excited about creating something and then they send it to me like that, it's like that just makes me want to do the show even more. So it's definitely mutual, So
Heck yeah. Well, we'll
and now
see the
that
advanced
Josh
copy
is
then.
back, we'll shut down the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah.
Take care.
Best
People clap at the end of podcasts.
we can. You guys want to clap it up?
Yeah, let's clap it out. Let's clap it out.
I like it.
Good show, guys.
I feel good about it.
That was a type 5.
Yeah.
Is that a sympathy laugh or real laugh?
That's me in the first couple minutes of the comedy show laugh. Like, what's the best place for people to find your stuff? Do you like Instagram, a website? What do you like?
Well, we'll differ on this. So this is
Yeah.
perfect, Brave Little Howl. I like Instagram because we have a link tree in our bio that can send you to the website, to Facebook, to tickets, to Spotify, to Apple Music, to Bandcamp.
I agree.
Okay.
He dislikes that. He wants you to go to the website. And
I
check
also
the website.
agree.
Okay. All right.
Or you can go to bravelittlehal.com.
BraveLittleHowl.com.
You have a unified force.
Do you guys
us
have
three.
like a way for people to donate if they want to donate?
Actually, there is a tip jar on our Instagram.
please go
link
to the
tree.
tip jar because I feel
And
also
on our Spotify. You
in-
can
Oh, is
donate
there?
on our Spotify, yeah.
Does that
anybody
go-
who
does-
can
does CD Baby take a portion of that?
No.
That goes straight to us.
anybody who can help y'all create more merch, because I feel like y'all have probably some pretty cool merch ideas. I would love to see somebody maybe help y'all create some stuff that
So you know how
can
you
help
talked
you out.
about the comics who were bombing?
Mhm.
That's us in merch right now.
I know. We'll get there. Don't worry.
Okay.
Listen, I want to end this podcast with us clapping it up again because I
Yes.
really enjoyed that. Brave Little
Good
Howl.
show, good
Check
show,
out the new
guys.
album.
Woo!
Good show.
Neola Gold.
And we'll see you guys later. Thank you so much.
I'm a fan of this
Love you,
podcast.
Keith.
BDK.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.